The morning sun stretched its rays, creating elongated shadows over the Kepler 442b settlement as Alpha Vorak of the Nexari Pride made his way toward the human military compound. His enormous stature, towering almost 3 meters with fur resembling polished copper and eyes that conveyed timeless knowledge, glided with the smooth elegance of a hunter despite his clear fatigue. Commander Lisa Patterson observed from the boundary fence as the alien leader approached them with a noticeable limp. 3 tiny shapes following him, like soft silhouettes. The Nexari cubs were likely no taller than a human adult's chest. They were large, with ears twitching anxiously as they absorbed the strange sights and smells of the human base. "Alpha Vorthach," Lisa called out, moving ahead with her hands in plain sight and unoccupied, a sign of respect she had acquired through the initial contact procedures. "You look terrible." The enormous alien's throat vibrated with what could have been a sound of amusement. With a strong accent yet clear fluency, he responded, "Your observation is correct, Commander Patterson. The Krolix raiders have advanced further into our territory than we expected. My pride needs to leave the northern territories without delay." Lisa nodded with a serious expression. The Krolix were a wandering warrior race that had been instilling fear in this sector for months. Their elusive hit-and-run strategies render them almost untraceable. The human colony and the Nexari had established a fragile partnership in the face of a shared danger. However, resources were limited. "What do you require from us?" she inquired, her gaze already fixated on the 3 young Nexari clustered behind their leader. Vorak's enormous head dipped, and for an instant, Lisa perceived not the fierce leader of a warrior pride, but merely a father confronted with an unthinkable decision. "The journey to the southern stronghold will span 12 days across treacherous land. My warriors and I can move quickly, engage in running battles, endure with limited resources, but the cubs—" His voice faded away. "They would hold you back," Lisa concluded gently. "Furthermore, their scent would reveal our location to Krolix hunting parties, and if we are compelled to engage in battle—" He didn't need to complete the thought. Cubs in a conflict area posed risks that could endanger everyone. Lisa gazed at the trio of young Nexari. The biggest one, likely comparable to a 12-year-old human, stood guard in front of the other 2. Even with their clear apprehension, all 3 upheld a dignified stance typical of their kind. "Are you asking us to take them?" she inquired. "I am inquiring," Vorthach stated, the words evidently challenging for him. "Your warriors have demonstrated great honor in combat. Your youthful fighters exhibit great discipline. I wish that you would look after them as if they were your own young ones." Lisa sensed the gaze of every human soldier upon her. Welcoming 3 extraterrestrial children amidst a war was already a challenging situation, but these were not your ordinary aliens. They were the offspring of humanity's most important local ally. The choice was straightforward. "Sergeant Rodriguez, set up the accommodations in the family housing unit and have Dr. Kim review our records on Nexari nutritional needs." "Ma'am," was the sharp response. Vorak felt an unmistakable sense of relief. He lowered himself, bringing his large stature closer to the eye level of his cubs. The ensuing conversation unfolded quickly, filled with growls and rumbling tones that Lisa found difficult to track. Yet the meaning was unmistakable. "Farewell. Keep yourself safe. Stay resilient." The cubs emitted high-pitched whines and chirps that pulled at a deep place in Lisa's heart, the collective cry of kids reluctant to see their parent go. Vorak stood up and locked eyes with Lisa, his gaze piercing, as if he could see right through into her soul. "Commander, I place my lineage, my destiny, and my very soul in your hands. In our society, this obligation can never be fulfilled." "Absolutely no debt," Lisa responded with conviction. "We stand together as allies. This is the role of allies." The Alpha set off within the hour, guiding his remaining warriors into the wild at a speed that would have tested any human vehicle. Lisa observed until they vanished beyond the ridge, then shifted her focus to 3 utterly bewildered, extremely frightened alien children. The following 2 weeks were unlike anything the human settlement had ever encountered. The cubs, Kurt, Nala, and little Zepp, changed the military compound in ways that took everyone by surprise. Sergeant Rodriguez, a dad of 2, ended up showing Kerr how to take apart a pulse rifle. Dr. Kim found that Nexari cubs picked up human languages at an astonishing rate, and before long, all 3 were conversing in a blend of English and their native language. However, it was Private Chen who achieved the significant advancement. Previously an elementary school teacher prior to enlisting, she understood that the cubs were feeling more than just homesickness. They were fighters in preparation, taken away from their usual educational setting. So she acted in accordance with her instincts. She began to instruct them. It wasn't solely about human customs and language. It also encompassed military protocol, tactical thinking, and an unfamiliar concept for the Nexari: combined arms coordination. As their own people engaged as solitary fighters or in small hunting groups, humans dedicated thousands of years to mastering the craft of extensive, synchronized combat. The cubs soaked it up like sponges. 12 days following Vorak's departure, long-range sensors picked up the return of the Nexari Pride. However, there was a problem. Rather than approximately 40 warriors who had departed, merely around 20 were now approaching, and they advanced slowly, resembling injured creatures seeking refuge. Lisa commanded the gates to be opened and ensured that medical teams were on standby. The sight that came forth from the forest caused her heart to plummet. Vorak was hardly aware, propped up by 2 of his warriors. The others displayed signs of skirmishes, with wounds hastily tended and the hollow-eyed fatigue of combatants stretched to their breaking point. Krollik's surprise attack. Vorax oversaw the situation as the medics took control. Half of the Pride is gone. They continue to approach. Just as he spoke, the perimeter alarms erupted into a cacophony of screams. Hostile contacts detected, several vectors approaching rapidly. The Kroleks trailed the injured Nexari right to the human settlement. "All personnel to battle stations," Lisa shouted into her communicator. "This is serious business." That was the moment she caught the sound, a noise that sent chills through her veins while filling her heart with an overwhelming sense of pride. A roar emerged from the family housing unit, beginning with a high and youthful sound, but soon accompanied by deeper, more mature voices. Kurt, Nala, and Zepp recognized their father's voice and understood he was in peril. But they weren't fleeing in a frenzied panic as Lisa had worried. Instead, they emerged at the forefront of a formation she had never encountered before. 20 human soldiers advancing in perfect harmony alongside 3 Nexari cubs. Their movements aligned seamlessly, merging the unique skills of Nexari warriors with the strategic precision of human military tactics. "Alpha Vorthach!" Kurt shouted, his youthful voice resonating through the compound with a distinct accent, yet clear clarity. "We seek authorization to confront the enemy." The injured Alpha lifted his gaze, a mix of confusion and disbelief flickering across his face. His cubs, his little ones, stood at the forefront of a hybrid formation that his warrior instinct instantly identified as remarkably powerful. "How?" he murmured. Lisa positioned herself next to him, her weapon at ready. "It seems your cubs are quick to pick things up, Alpha, just like our people. Indeed, we excel as educators." The Krollex Axat struck the settlement in successive waves, anticipating the presence of a battered Nexari pride and a few human soldiers. Instead, they faced something unfamiliar, a team that battled alongside Nexari, showcasing individual prowess and human teamwork, guided by 3 young aliens who dedicated 2 weeks to studying the most militarily accomplished species in the universe. The conflict ended in under an hour. Later, while the medics tended to the injured and the dead were tallied,
all of them crows, Vorthak sat with his cubs nestled against him, listening as they animatedly recounted their training in a blend of languages. Lisa observed from the other side of the compound, a grin playing on her lips. Sergeant Rodriguez walked over, his head shaking in disbelief. "Commander, after 15 years in the military, I've never encountered a formation quite like that." Lisa nodded, her gaze fixed on the family that had come together once more. "Sergeant, I believe we have just seen the emergence of something unprecedented, a development that will transform the approach to warfare in this region." "What is that, ma'am?" "The future," Lisa said plainly. "The leader abandoned his young ones with the human warriors. They are coming back to their community, guiding a movement that will transform the way our kind collaborates in battle." In the days that came after, news circulated among both human and Nexari communities regarding the hybrid strategies that had arisen from a blend of trust and necessity. Other prides started dispatching their young warriors to undergo training with human forces, and human military advisors were embraced within Nexari territories. The Krollex, confronted with this novel type of coordinated warfare, discovered that their hit-and-run tactics were abruptly rendered ineffective against foes who merged speed, skill, and discipline in unprecedented ways. However, perhaps the most significant lesson was that 3 young Nexari cubs discovered strength wasn't solely about personal skill. It centered on trust, collaboration, and the connections formed among species that decided to unite against the darkness. Years later, when historians reflected on the pivotal moment in the Krollex conflict, they would highlight numerous factors: enhanced technology, advanced intelligence, optimized logistics. However, those present were aware of the reality. It all began with an alpha who placed his trust in human soldiers, and those humans taught the cubs that the most formidable formations are not forged through weapons,